Recording. Speaker view. Okay, so I think we can just jump straight in. And so thank you for joining us today. So to get started off, can you brief us about the purpose of design by privacy by design lab? Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for inviting. Then also thank you for asking my organization.
Mhm.
So Privacy by Design Lab is a Japanese entity.
Mhm.
We established almost 2.5 years ago.
Okay.
We on the purpose to create a new privacy culture
Mhm.
across over the world
Mhm.
to establish the new concept
Mhm.
with the global expert in the privacy space.
Mhm.
And to achieve this goal, we are working with a multi-stakeholder,
Okay.
such as the government entity or private company
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
consumers
Mhm.
and the other industry organizations. And we try to encourage the business person
Mhm.
to take an actions with privacy protections
Okay.
because privacy is the fundamental rights
Mhm.
for all the business partners.
Mhm.
It's not only for the companies, but also individual
Mhm.
who buy something, their products
Mhm.
on the data ecosystem. So we believe privacy is the strong empowerment the digital company to acquire the advantage to compete with the other company and also enhance their brand awareness to become more trusted.
Mhm.
This is very important to create innovations. So that's why we are excited to work on this space.
Mhm. Okay. Uh, so do you have any structured products? Like, how do you execute on your vision of improving awareness on privacy?
Thank you. Basically, our approach is making an opportunity
Mhm.
for the stakeholders to gather,
Mhm.
create something new,
Mhm.
which is like we work on some of the place, such as the big conference now we are working this moment
Mhm.
to invite the multi stakeholders such as the government, business, or other entities
Mhm.
to discuss what the kind of direction they should go, what kind of the parties should they pay attention,
Mhm.
and also we to come together to get closed
Mhm.
their own networks. So this is our ordinary commitment to achieve this purpose.
Okay. So, would you like to share any details about the event? Like, is it happening in the next few months, and is it happening in Japan?
Yes, we will be organized in the early of next year.
Okay.
Um, we invited some of the good speakers
Mhm.
and also the good participants.
Mhm.
There has been a very exciting times, not just in our country, but also invited the other entities, such as from Europe. Then we discuss about the future.
Okay.
So yeah, that's a very good opportunity for.
So you are the founder of this organization, am I right? So how did you get into this field? Like, what made you choose, this particular?
Yeah, thank you. That's very important questions. As I'm working at the digital marketing space, there almost decades, then I realized it's a very important to create for the future, which means on the data business field, a lot of companies try to collect the customer data and they develop their own business.
Mhm.
However, in this theory, just a big company is taking their own positions. So some of these small companies or other businesses or consumer is not able to join their decision making. It's very hard to break in. I realize it's a very important to consider then increase the literacy on the business side to make the equity of the business. When I visited to the UNESCO almost 4 years ago, then I had a talk to some of the leaders to develop the new innovations. What is necessary for society? Then I'm concluded it's been very important to commit to create new things, including of the many stakeholders at once, then discussing what the best way for the future. So this is the origination why I came to this field and why I'm excited to create new things without any borders. So yeah, this is my commitment here.
Okay.
It's really noble, it's not easy for anyone to like start a project, and and there are a lot of more people involved, with you. It's a big team effort, so all the best and congrats, on that. So how would you compare, if we were to compare the privacy space in, Asia and Europe, if you look at it like that, in the US, in the Americas, like, can you say is there any difference?
Yeah, thank you. I think back to the privacy history, I think the Western country has like established their own concept more than centuries ago. That's a very important concept for the citizens living in Western country then. In Asian countries, of course, we have different cultures. In Japan and South Korea and in China, they also some Southeast Asian countries and India has been a very different context to through the establishment of their own life. In the privacy difference in our jurisdictions is quite significant. For example, in Western country, is very similarities to respect of the fundamental rights. So this is a concept based on the individual has a strong powers against of any monopolizations. In Asian context, it's more a little bit different, as I'm understanding, which means in Asian context is more kind of the closed relationship, such as based on the families, based on the delegations, based on the bridge style. I think this is quite different from the Western and Asian countries. For example, in Japan, we have been established our own island through the cultivations. So we are not the hunting style; we are cultivation style in the long running to live against of any catastrophe such as the floods, which is one of the very biggest issues to save our lives. So we have to cooperate together with the human being and sharing the information as much as they can to build a relationship. And from that history, we tend to share the more data, more information to close to families such as your brothers. It's been a very close relationship. We providing them without any hesitations. And those relationships is a very uniqueness of our countries in compared to the other Western regions that where my friend is living. I've been talking with them again and again. Oh, that's a very different concept we have. So this is kind of the difference in between the Western and Asian regions related to the privacy. I think it's sticking it to the histories that we haven't spent until the nowadays we've extended in life at this moment.
Yeah, I had never thought about it like that. It's true when you say it. Like back in India, families and neighbors are like really close.
Yeah.
They know what's happening in the next house, and that also creates sometimes social problems. Like
Mm.
because people are like, why are they bothered about what I'm doing? That is a difference. That's true. So, do you think this makes as opposed to the Western countries, does it make Asian nations more Asian citizens more vulnerable to privacy, concerns like data? Because we don't really care in because most of my friends, when I tell them, there is like a privacy concerns, and I mean, all of us, we just say it's already gone. Like there's
Mhm.
nothing we can do now. So, do you think we are more vulnerable from you know in sense of data?
Yeah, as I mentioned in the last part, then it's a very important, especially for our countries. It's what is the boundaries in between the relationship, which means when you have in a spend the very profound relationship with them, we trust it without any motions. So that's a pretty interesting. But I
Mhm.
think in a Western style, which is more kind of a different, just it's not a part of the relationship. It's a part of your ownership. So relationship, the ownership is quite a different.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, though, in our countries has the different context who strongly insist their ownership. Yet they said, yeah, Western style is very good, but
Mhm.
more traditional Japanese style is based on the relationship. Relationship means it's not just one person; it's that person has been delegated together. So this is a quite a difference than based. So the data sharing is the sticking into this behavior. For example, you providing data to your close relationships, such as the families or the things. But in case you trusted any specific entity, such as the government, the company, but they distrust, such as the ones they consent with me, then but they are using a different purposes. It's been a breaching of the boundary. So that's a very kind of the important,
Mhm.
regardless of the sensitiveness of the data.
Mm-hmm.
So the trusted is the quite so important in the relationship based.
Mm-hmm.
And so we tend to reliable being the specific entities. Then once we trust it, we get engaged as much as we can. So this is not just for the privacy, but also our culture. And
Mhm.
it's a very interesting context we have been created from the decades ago.
So,
What sort of boundaries, like how would you define privacy? Like what are some of the essential elements in privacy?
Yes, that's a very interesting question, because the palm boundary is the depends on the relationship and their context.
Mm-hmm.
As I mentioned on the previous question, just the people who tend to think highly of the ownership,
Mm-hmm.
their boundary is very small, right? Which means they want to control themselves.
Mm-hmm.
But in case the person who is being reliable,
Mm-hmm.
such as the person who try to dependencies on the specific entity, such as the I believe strongly in the government company. If they can do any things for me, that's very good. I
Mm-hmm.
don't care about my ownership. In that case, we don't have to worry about any kind of the actions, any kind of the communications, because we have a loose relationship there. But the problem is the person who has their own ownership in essential. They should communicate in a different way. It's not just to make the reliable relationship, it's just giving them ownership indeed. So this is the difference of the boundaries in each person's. So I want to make an answers with your questions, but actually it's not easy. It depends on their own conceptualizing. So that's a kind of my answer with you.
Do you think there are strong enough penalties if these boundaries are breached? Do you think we have strong enough penalties in the law right now?
I think a penalty has some of the aspects, such as the relationship penalties and punishment, or there is a bunch of the penalties here. Under the Japanese law, the corporate relationship and customer relationship is quite different. When you breach the boundaries between the individual to individual, in this case, we need to go to the court in each level, because there is no specific actions by the Japanese privacy regulations, because the privacy regulation is applying to the corporate abusement. So in case the company is using the customer data without any purpose, that's been a punishment. But any individual is using this information from your friends or from your families without any purposes. So that's the same thing, but it's structurally different. So I think a Japanese regulation is quite so complex right now, but even I think the privacy boundary has been widespread through the technical innovations, but there is no specific underlining to like support the victims to take remedies from this abusement, this moment. There is a big issues. So yeah, this is the momentum we should widen the eyes to look at how it happens in the privacy space at this moment.
Yeah, so might be a very basic question, but I would like you to tell for our listeners, like, what do we mean by data? For what is the most commonly uh, used or misused data of a person, of an individual, that by these corporations and companies? If you can.
Yeah, I think data itself is just a kind of the digital numbers or digital figures, which means it's just a kind of the 1, 2, 3 anything, just a arrangement, or any alphabet that we can processing on any internet service, right? But the problem is that when you put a specific meaning on these digits, this digits is not just the data. This is become a more informative things. In this case, people with a worry about, oh, my digits, meaning it's a privacy and a private, then the company is processing it without any notice. That becomes a big problems. So I think we should focus on the meaningfulness. That is very important. On the internet, it's just a processing. Then digits, alphabet, so we can see and where. Then we are judging it. Oh, this digit means what is that? Is a person? Is that anonymity or anything like that? This is the interpretations under the regulations. So my recommendation is to try to understand of the process, how the digit works, how this digit is to put in the specific meaning. I think that's why the transparent, accountable is very important. In case of the human is handling this process, they can judge Of course, in case an evil person is doing that, that happens any abusive actions. But the problem is the machine is processing it without humans interventions. It happens any of the automatic, the wrong way. So we should consider how this digit is being used and how this digit is getting the meaningful under the regulations or under the relationship. So this is a very important for the futures, because we will see the more device connections. Even we are not accessing the PC like this, we call it on Zoom. It's a we coming here, but actually, like, you imagine that you are walking on the street, the surveillance camera is watching you, regardless of your boundaries and dimensions.
Exactly.
You can be easy to be tracked, traced, and digits it's been stored and device crowd. It's a problem, but in case of the crowd service is processing it, whether the artificial intelligence doing it or not. But the meaningfulness is very important, such as been when you go to the airport, then your face is been recognized. Oh, I am. Oh, it's not I am, because this digit is not being judged of the meaningfulness. So the machine has been rejected the entering of your countries or any of the travel budget or something like that. So this is a big issues. If we be just all relies to the technology, so we needed to care about this meaningful processes, not just all the data. So this is my opinion.
So, do you think all this data is used for, profit maximization? Is that the most common goal, or is it more about control from the state? Because, like you said, mass surveillance is becoming more common.
Yes, I think it was a great inventions, right?
Mm-hmm.
To make this data to be a lucrative, because we understand this is just in a digits, just in a numbers arrangement or the alphabet arrangement. But
Mm-hmm.
this is a meaningful. This could be the lucrative. I think this is a kind of the theory of the capitalism, the increasing of the positions, then increase the numbers of stocks and gain the money through this operation and cycle. So there has been a clever inventions. In the futures, we realize this theory is not sustainable, because this data is really the accurate data or not, right? Which means the big companies such as the Google, Facebook, it's a matter now, is Amazon, or this company is collecting too much of our digits, right? Then they try to put the specific number as identity. When you go to the login on Facebook and Google, you just put on any specific emails, passwords, then just to log in on the service, and on Zoom as well. They are just collecting this identity, then staking this identity is on the behavior of the browsers, any specific things, and sticking it to these connections. So they make these inventions. There has been a lucrative, because from the advertiser's perspective, they can easily to define who is accessing these products and services. The advertiser wants to send a message for them. Why not to buy my product as well? It was a very difficult in the traditional way, just for the mass promotions. For example, like you can see some of the good brochures, then any person has been delivered on the street, or just in a TV show, you can see the commercial. There is a way, but it was very difficult to personalize the contents. But on the digital world, you can easily to find discovery of any products that they want through any tracking resources. So this is a very creative inventions. However, exactly the using on the browsers on the reality, which means that you buy any specific device, such as the smart speakers. You just call them, please switching on the room or switching on the toilet or any kind of things. It's becoming a reality. In this case, those company has been integrated this identity to your real world. I think it's very important to reconsider whether your identity should be integrated all things to one single company and selling to direct to the advertisers. The advertiser can easy to identify who you are, even they didn't have any specific data, because there has no digits for them, but this digits has been combining to be more specific with you. So this is a very important ecosystem, but it's a move to the real world right now, such as in medical things. Then you go to the hospital, then doctor is been consulting. Oh, you are kind of the diagnosis, so you should take on this medicine or any other things. But the problem is these tech company, maybe they know that's what the doctor is providing you, what the doctor is giving them of any documents, being the result of any diseases, right? In this case, you can click on any browsers, maybe just in appearance of any medicine that you should take. Oh, the doctor said, why they not? Maybe any big company is become familiar with your behaviors in your private life. So I think it's a time to reconsider whether it's been good or not. So this is a very important time to like whether it's been a sustainable this model or not. So this is my recommendation. It's an advertisement model, but I think it's limitations. Why we should be like joining this ecosystem, giving your data to them.
So I mean, with the example that you gave of the smart speakers, about how we are giving a command to turn on the lights and there's a lot of commands. I don't think it's appropriate, like, because the consumer is already paying a price to purchase the product. But the company who is selling this product is, and this is related to Mahat's question about whether this is profit maximization or control. So these companies, they are trying to increase their revenue further by taking the data from our devices and, like you said, to create even more targeted advertisements. So I don't think that's fair, because I don't think the consumer has explicitly agreed to have his data, because he's paying for a product. He hasn't consented to sharing the data from to advertisers. That's like a never-ending subscription model. Like, and there is
Yeah.
no, um, yeah, I suppose there would be certain consumers who are okay with it, because they think that they will receive even more personalized advertisements, and they think that will be more beneficial. But at the same time, there will be people who are not open to that. And I don't think we have any framework or any model right now where um, like smart device manufacturers ask the consumer first, like, are you okay with this information being used to improve targeted advertisements? So yeah.
So how
You
do
have
we
certain,
fight? Yeah, how do
please.
we fight this? How can we?
I think it's not a fighting. It's just the kind of the change in the
Hmm.
behavior that is very important. I mean, just it's a becoming change since the privacy regulation is becoming strong, because the governments or any intermediate should support the consumers who worry about their own private intrusions. But there wasn't no any support before the regulation has come, right? Which is the disproportionate from the consumer side. But nowadays it's becoming change. The regulation is paving the own system. Try to support the consumers who worry about it. They can easy to ask to the authority. I'm worried about my data. How I should negotiate with the big company. Oh, we can do it. That's I think the way to alleviations of the fairness of the privacy. That's one way. But the other way is the technology. So a lot of companies are trying to create a new technical innovations. For example, as I mentioned, anonymity, it's a one way. It's not identify who you are, but they try to provide the good output for you, right? Which means that you don't have to provide your informations. Just you provided of the your identifiers, which means like the part of your behaviors. It's not just representative yourself. The companies or the advertiser can easy to imagine, oh, this person is the group A. We should provide the kind of any demanding for them. So we can should supply in such of the products should be applied to the group A. So we're gonna provide them service. So this is a kind of the one approach of the technical solutions. The other part is identity. As I mentioned, the identity was created by the big corporations with the digit numbers. But now is who is owning the identity? This is the very important topics. For example, you own your data that you can control yourself. And the previous part, as I mentioned, the ownership is important in the Western country. So some of the Western project is committed to the self-sovereign identity, which is the identity for the users. They have their ownership. They can provide their own identifiers to the specific entity that you are trusting, right? So this is a kind of the movement right now. Even the big company who gains the profit through the extreme capitalism, but they are changing their mind. They have trying to take their responsibilities for the sustainable futures. Then they try to invest it to the privacy, right? So this is a very good movement right now. So sometimes we tend to fight against of the company, but this is no end, right? We should continuously to fight. It's been a very exhausted. I think the good idea is try to collaborate it. Mm-hmm. It's not any losers. It's just the winner together. So that is a very important. I'm working on the privacy by design. Why is that privacy by design is important? Is this concept is include a win-win. This game on the internet is just a win-lose. Mm. That is not so good. It's a becoming change. It's a win-win. Mm-hmm. So yeah, that's why I'm trying to spread out the privacy by design context to the most stakeholders. So yeah, this is my idea to the question.
It's really great. I mean, like I said, it's a really needed and noble mission and target for you and your company.
Yeah.
So,
I have two more questions. So I think my next question would be not a very in-depth question. I just want to know which company do you think is the most advanced right now in terms of protecting consumer privacy?
That is very difficult questions because in the privacy, as I mentioned, we have the different impressions in person. So, but as much as I understand, that's the Apple has been started of the privacy protections, which was originated by the Steve Jobs, the former executive officer. He invented the concept of the iPhone, the iPad has been a very exclusive. He had a talk at the one business conference. Then he answered that for the privacy is they're asking the customers whether the data can they correct or not. So that is a very simple answer. Then I inspired. That's been a very good concept because the data is important for the customers, the company, the both of them, not just either. So we need to ask for them again and again as much as they can, whether the data can be used or not, right? Then the data is been should be then stored or not. That's very simple questions. But the asking for them has been one additional efforts to the business, to the company. But we should do it if they want to use the data. So that's why the Apple has been invented of the maybe you use an iPhone, you can find any of the consent, whether you can be tracked or not. That's been a very simple message. I think it's very good. I think this is a very good interface. We can easily to judge to give them a data or not. This is the one way the Apple has been invented, or other companies are trying to create their own way, but it's on the way, mainly company, because the technically it's not easy. As I mentioned, the privacy is been a very individual context, so it's very hard to personalize because the digital services is not compatible to create the orientation of the personal characters. So that's very important to create the ultimate of the customer driven. But now it's been struggling a lot of company to produce the new way instead of using the principle of the digital ecosystem right now. I believe new kind of the solution will be created a lot with included of the privacy by design context with them.
Okay. And my last question is, do you think blockchain has any tangible or any significant advantage if you're thinking about privacy?
Yes and no, because the blockchain is solutions. As much as I believe that blockchain is a very good alternative to control by yourself, right? Which means you have your own data that you can choose on the blockchain wherever you want to provide in data. I think it's based on the infrastructure level. I think compared to the traditional controllership by the specific big company. So the blockchain has been said that's been a alternative infrastructure to create of the self-sovereign concept. But actually there is many problems in blockchain itself because then it's not just for the blockchain, just for the necessary on the decentralized architectures. It's a very technical answers, but which means it's just consensus based. Maybe some of the listeners, it's been hard that it's been a smart contract or anything. It's a kind of the automatic contract. The infrastructures, then you just write on the specific algorithm and judged by the automatic decision making. It's better if the human is making a mistake. The technical solution has potentially improved this process mistaken, but the blockchain is not a perfect because an algorithm is hacked. The structure has been collapsed. One good example is been a stable coin, which was been a very big news in some months ago. The algorithm hacked and those structure has been shut down. So those are vulnerabilities of the blockchain. I think there is many good points. Of course, decentralize the way to give back control to the data ownership. But the problem is the data ownership has been more severe for the individual. When you lost your own numbers. You are not able to access it on Bitcoin. That is the kind of the representative of the case of the ownership.
Mm-hmm.
So the rights and duty is very important, like meaning on the blockchain. So the blockchain needs give us the rights, but they also give us the duty as well. So if you relies on the blockchain, you should take responsibility by yourself. It's not just rely on the company. So this is the one message from me. Then, of course, the blockchain is very good, but blockchain has been a very severe at this moment.
Okay, perfect. And that's all.
Yeah. No, I have some questions like more on mass surveillance, but I don't know if you have enough time. So
Yeah, you can ask me then.
no, I was like concerned about how the state is using privacy, as we were talking about companies. So how do governments, profit? They say it's for security, it's for national security all the time. So do you we hear they are selling the data to companies. Is that truth in that from your experience? Maybe you can.
I don't know exactly in the specific case, but the national security reason is very important because please imagine in your life just any criminal action happens surrounds your communities. Maybe you become worry about your own safety, right? In this case, the government is taking actions to intervene of any potential incident with you. To accomplish, the government needs the informations about your surrounds. But in this case, you have been potentially criminalized by them, right? Which means, oh, he might be the person who did, right? In this case, just through the misjudgment, even you didn't do anything like that. So that is the worrisome that we should be paying attention. So it's not just for the privacy, it's just a part of the government actions. So the government is basically very neutral, is a very democratized. But the problem is sometimes they act as the more principle. For example, like they have enforcement actions, and the police has the right to the strong commitment to eliminate of the criminal actions, right? In this case, they try to take in a warrant to excuse the potential person who might be caused any crimes. Then they will be arrested, right? There is no way to avoid that. The misinformation will cause the result of that. That is the big problems. So the privacy means is intrusions by the enforcers. So you don't want to share the data for them, but the data is being shared with them. Then they judge you or the person should be arrested. That is a big problems. So I think that the privacy ownership is taken into your own assessment to judge whether you are really person who should be executed or not. So this is my ideas. As much as I know, that's been problems from some of the case has been happens through the misuse of the data.
Yeah. So, like, how's blockchain coming into this scene? in security. I heard like there was like crimes that were caught because of it was, done on blockchain. And there are also concerns that about crypto and blockchain, the whole thing that, it's not decent, it's not centralized. We don't know where this fund is going. So how do you think it improves security, blockchain, like national?
I think it's not the part of the blockchain actually. The blockchain is just a kind of processing the data. I think the problem is the enforcement, the misuse of the data. It's not actually of the problem is the blockchain, but this solution as a blockchain is the way of the which means the changing the information on the centralized servers, right? In case of any specific entity who administrates of your data, they can change your name, your histories, or your informations by their own controllership, right? But in the blockchain there is no specific controller. It's just in a node. So the data is in a process in a natural. I think this is the good features of the blockchain. Without any intermediates can modify them themselves. So this is the more transparent than the centralized control of the data. But as I mentioned, the problem is the enforcement. Even your data is becoming transparent, but the enforcer judged, oh, you're a criminal, even it's not for you, right? Then you've been arrested. That's a very big problem from the security reasons.
That's all from my side. Aaron?
That's about it. Thank you so much for your time, Kohei.
Thank
Um,
you.
I would encourage our listeners to connect with him on LinkedIn. His name is Kohei
Okay.
Kurihara, and also he has a bunch of very interesting interviews on his YouTube channel, which is titled Privacy by Design Lab. The links for all of these profiles will be in the description. So once again, thank you for your time, Kohei, and I hope that our listeners have found this and to be an insightful conversation.
Yeah, thank you for having. It's an honor to be here with you.
Bye bye.
Okay,
Bye.
thank you. Bye.